Good morning, crafty peeps. Today we're going to be working on creating our Fall Breeze Tri folio. And right now we're going to start on the base. So let me go through this real quickly just so you can see how the pages are, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So our folio starts off with the inside. You're going to have a little file folder page, and I just have some little cut aparts there. And then also we're going to have several different types of mats that you can use in this folio, but this is one of them holding your 5x7s. And we're actually going to change this up. I decided that I was not really happy with this little corner thing, so we're going to go ahead and do a belly band. Then next, we're going to be making our little binding for our plastic pages, and then we will start working on the inside as well, which is another mat. And you could probably put 2 of these mats in here. We're going to work on this angle pocket. And then, of course, on the inside, we're going to work with this fold over page, which is magnetic. This is actually the only magnetic page in here aside from the cover of the album. And then you can have another 2 mats here as well. So, and then lastly, but not least, we're going to be working on our little waterfall. And then you can have some 2.5 by 2.5 photos right there. So let's go ahead and get started. So the pieces you're going to need are, for the base of this album, 2 pieces of chipboard at 7.5 by 8 3/4. Okay, and then 2 pieces at 1 inch and 8 3/4. And then your last piece, that's going to be all the way over to the right, is a little bit shorter. Instead of 7.5, it's 7 3/8 by 8 3/4. And this is so that when you're closing the book, that it doesn't get caught on the binding. So let's go ahead and get started. Oops. For your solid colored cardstock, you're going to need 3 sheets at 10 3/4 by 12 inches wide. So 10 3/4 long by 12 inches wide. And we will be cutting off some of the third. Now, some of the tricks that I like to do is I like to go ahead and add tape around the first page, all 4 corners. I haven't added it here yet, but we'll get into that in a second. And then on the next one, I do it again on 3 of the corners. And then on the last one, I want to wait. I did put it here, but I'm not going to put it down here or here yet. Another thing I like to do, a little trick to make sure that my papers are aligned, I take my graph ruler, which I've already made these marks, but I'll show you really quickly. Well, my graph ruler just disappeared. Oh, here it is. Okay. So sorry about that. Okay. I like to measure an inch, which this on your graph ruler cut in half is an inch. So an inch all the way around except for on the right hand side, okay? And this way, when I'm lining them up, they line up a lot easier. So those are just some of the tricks. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off with these 2 pieces, and the 12 inches is going to be horizontal and your 10 3/4 is vertical. So let's go ahead and attach these 2 together. I also, because it is so humid here in Florida, I do like to adhere with glue as well. So I'm just going to line this up here along the bottom of my mat. I also like to have a graph mat available at all times, just to kind of help me keep things in line. And I'm going to use a little strip of glue here, and forgive my mat for being dirty, but that's where I usually have the glue, as you can tell. And I'm going to line these up so you can see from here to here. They should be lined up, and I'm going to smooth it in and wipe off any excess glue. Okay. And then I'm going to continue on with my last page. So I'm going to remove my tape. Okay. And then I'm going to add my glue. Let me just line this up properly here first. So if you were in high humidity areas, you may want to do that. And I forgot to add my lines at the top and bottom. For some odd reason, this measurement is off. Okay, I apologize for that. So I went ahead and cut a new piece, and I did add my lines on there this time to make sure that I line it up properly. So again, I'm going to line it up on my graph mat and go ahead and reapply the glue since it's dried up now. And then I'm going to go ahead and line these up. And then burnish it in. Okay, so at this point we can go ahead and start grabbing our chipboard. Okay, hold on one second. Now this part I made easy by allowing myself to have this little line right here. I can keep it aligned, and let me move all of this stuff out of the way here. I got this crazy long piece, so bear with me, guys. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to have a 7.5 by 8 3/4, and don't worry, this you're not going. I want you to line it to this top line and then on the left. Okay, don't worry about the bottom. It is off slightly, but that means nothing. It's only what's folding over. Okay. Then we're going to have about a 1/8 inch in between. And then you're going to have one of your 1 by 8 3/4. Excuse me. Then you're going to have your next piece at 7.5 by 8 3/4. Again, leaving a space in between. If you use Tyvek, you can go ahead and add your Tyvek to the back of the pieces now. I apologize, guys. One of my pieces fell. This has been quite a morning. Okay. Again, leaving about a 1/8 inch space, you're going to have your next piece that is 1 by 8 3/4, and then finally your last piece, which is going to be 7 3/8 by 8 3/4. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Tyvek. So I already cut 2 pieces of Tyvek to be able to put this together. And my pieces of Tyvek are 2 inches by 8 3/4. So I'm just going to flip these over real quick. In fact, you can even, I'm not going to move it out of the way because I want to make sure this is lined up straight, okay? There we go. So I have about my space, my 1/8 inch in between. I'm going to go ahead and add my tape to this. Sorry, this is going to have to be a little bit off screen here because I don't have enough space. But I'm just adding my 2 inch score tape to this. I have a cruddy piece of scissors that I use when I'm cutting my tape because this stuff is very sticky. So let me move all of this out of the way. I'm just going to concentrate. Oops, I'm sorry. No, I lied. This should be about my 1/8 inch space. And then again, I'm going to add on my my 7.5 by 8 3/4. Go ahead and remove the backing. Sorry guys, it's being a little cranky. Okay guys, I got a better idea. We're going to do something a little bit different. Hold on. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stick this piece down, okay? Hi, Tammy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and burnish this in, and I don't want them to overlap, so I'm going to remove this piece and then continue on to add on that last piece of tape here. I'm going to work with my hair. Okay. So I'm just going to burnish that in until there's no air bubbles left. Okay. And I can go ahead and remove the tape. Okay, and then let me straighten this up a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead. If there's any pieces hanging over, go ahead and fold them back onto the tape. Okay, and then I'm going to line this up at the top line and then along the left. Then, hold on, I like this one better. I'm going to burnish this baby in. Okay, and if it's slightly off, it's okay. It's, you know, it's going to happen. Then I'm going to work on my next piece, which actually this piece I'm just going to glue on. So this is your 1 inch by 8 3/4, and the glue does not want to come out today. Gotta love that. Okay. Again, I'm going to use a little piece to divide my 1/8 inch here, and again line it up to that top line. Again, like I said, don't worry about the bottom line. It is going to go over a hair. Okay. And I'm just pushing it into place, making sure that it's 1/8 inch. And I'm going to burnish it in really good because this time I didn't use tape. So the next piece is going to be this one. And again, I'm going to go ahead and add my tape to that one. If you want to purchase this tape, you can get it on Amazon. And I will have the link below for that. Oops. There we go. Now again, I'm going to burnish this in real quick because again, I don't want to double over that. It just makes it difficult to take the backing off, okay? And then line it up. Okay, now this piece, I'm going to burnish this in, and I am going to add a little bit of glue on the back here, and that's just so that I can push it into place, okay? And then we'll burnish it in. And add my glue. Okay. And again, line it up to that top line. Oops. If you have any dirt or anything that got in your way, move it out of the way. Line it up. Okay, trying to see if I can see this really well. Push up just a smidge. Okay. And again, see, I don't have it an 1/8 inch way. So this way, with that glue, I can push it into place. And now it's right. And I'm not worried about this being upside down. This is all going to be covered up. So they are definitely not going to see any of this writing, okay? And usually I use pencil, not black marker, okay? I just did the black marker for y'all. Okay, so again, we're going to go ahead and glue this piece on. This one is 1 inch by 8 3/4. So this will be the last of your 1 inch pieces. Okay, wait, I'm going to add a little more glue. I've got my fan on in here and it's kind of blowing pretty strong. All right, again, I'm going to have my spacer and I'm going to line it up. Okay, to that top line. Running this along to see if I need to move it over a little bit, and I did. Let me push it up just a smidge. I'm going to have to retape it. I apologize, guys. I feel like I didn't have it set right. Oh my goodness, this piece is being difficult. Let me see something. This piece is off by a hair, so I am going to trim it. Okay. There we go. I was wondering why that just wasn't making any sense, guys. Okay. And burnish that baby in. I'm going to burnish it in really good because I've lifted it up quite a few times. And so I just want to make sure that it's really on there. Okay, so we're down to our final piece. This is going to be the one that is 7 3/8 by 8 3/4. Okay. Okay, I was going to do this off camera, but I decided to go ahead and show you all how to fix your boo-boos. Okay, so I took my trimmer and I went ahead and trimmed off this section here. I'm going to go ahead and start over and realign this up here and add on my third piece of solid colored cardstock, just to let you know that we're all human and apparently I'm having one of those days. So let's go ahead and attach this piece again. Okay. All right. Let me grab my glue. And again, I'm going to line this up so that it is straight. And burnish it in. Okay. Okay, so I went ahead and put this last piece on off camera in case there were any more boo-boos, but there weren't. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to measure approximately an inch off of here, and that will let me know where I need to trim it. Okay, because we don't need all that excess paper. Oops, I mean inch, not an inch and a half. I apologize. Let me get rid of that mark. Okay, and then I like to do one at the bottom. And I went ahead and added some tape to the bottom, and I'm going to do the top here in just a second. Okay, so at this point we can go ahead and add on our Tyvek. I normally do it underneath, but this time I'm going to do it on top and see if it makes any difference at all whatsoever in making my album. So I guess we'll find out here. And go ahead and peel this off. And I'm just going to center this. And it goes over a slight hair, so I might have to trim off some of this. Just a smidge. Just want to make sure it doesn't go over. So actually, it probably was okay. But anywho, we'll be all right. Okay, and then I have my last one. Okay, guys. I really need to get one of those picks. Okay, here we go. Gonna center that. And I'm gonna go ahead and burnish this in, okay? Go ahead and push that all the way down, okay? Okay. Now we can go ahead and start adding more score tape along our edges. Okay. I'm just going to burnish in my tape one more time. Oops, I forgot to do this edge. Okay, so now I'm going to get my perfect trim ruler and I'm going to go ahead and mark my corners. And I like to do the smallest one at 0.25. I don't know if that's, no, I'm sorry, the smallest one is like 0.125. Let's try something new. Let's do 0.18, okay? I'm going to line this up and then mark it. I'm going to keep it on that same thing. And mark it. And continue on. Okay. Now I can go ahead and trim these off. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna start removing my, well actually let me start on the bottom, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and push up my paper and bend it forward, okay? Making sure it's even on all sides. Okay. All right, and I prefer to use glue on this portion, but that is up to you if you want to use tape. I like that the glue allows me to kind of maneuver my paper a little bit before it's stuck. I'm sorry, one of my wipies disappeared. So I need to get a new one before this glue dries. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to push it up on here. And I'm going to start burnishing it in and wiping off any excess glue. Okay. Do not worry if it bends a little bit. You can manipulate your paper into place, okay? Okay. So I go ahead and gently rub in where my indentions are, or score lines. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and prepare my corners as well. And what I do is I kind of push it. I'm going to add a little bit of glue here, just a little drip. Okay, and I'm going to push in my little corner. I'm going to mash that in there. Okay. And it's going to look something like this. Hopefully my camera will pick up on that. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I push up and then mash down. Okay. All right, now we can start getting this ready to go. Now I did use thin chipboard. This is probably about the thickness of a cereal box. Okay, so if you don't have any chipboard at home, but you save cereal boxes, you can definitely use that for this. Okay, so I'm just burnishing it in, getting it ready. Okay. Okay. And now I can go ahead and add in my glue. And again, burnish it in and wipe away any excess glue that's coming up. And I'm also gently, and I mean kind of gently, not too hard, getting my indentions ready. Okay. Oops. Don't want to get that cloth in there. Again, I'm going to get my corners prepared. I'm going to push it up and mash it down and wipe off any excess glue. Come on now, work with me today. There we go. Let me do this first and then add the glue. Okay. are almost getting done with this. Let me make sure it's... If you feel like you have any, let me add my tip here to this. Because if you have any gaps, you're going to have lifting, and you do not want lifting at all. So I'm going to add in a little bit of glue there and burnish it in to make sure that there is no lifting. See, I can see just a slight bit over here. Okay. See where I feel any more? I got some right there. Most of your lifting you're going to see right around this particular spot. Okay. I'm not sure what that is, or why that is, but it usually just happens around here. Okay, looks great. Go ahead and remove my backing, and I can begin to fold this over. Okay, and burnish it in really good. All right, we're going to turn and do the other side. Again, don't forget to burnish it in and remove the excess glue. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so let me give you my pieces, my measurements for these two pieces that are going to go on top here. I may end up using part of another piece, so we will see in just a minute. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and cover the inside of this, and I actually already got my tape ready. Okay, and let me give you these measurements here. So your paper is going to need to be 12 inches by 8 5/8. So you'll need two of those at 12 inches by 8 5/8. And then you're going to need one piece at 8 5/8 by 3 inches. Okay, so we'll put that up there because that's going to be our last one. And again, I'm going to grab all my stuff that I'm going to need before I start putting this down. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up straight on my board here, or on my mat, shall I say, not my board. Okay, and then, well, I usually use my score pal. Okay, but this is a very big folio, so I don't have that option this time. So I'm just going to peel off my tape, and I am going to use a combination of glue on this as well, just to make sure that I have plenty of time to move stuff around. I tell you what, this has been quite a day for me. I think if anything, everything could have gone wrong in this video. It probably has, but now we're going to make this work, guys. We're going to make it work. Okay. Let me go ahead and get my glue down. And I'm just going to lightly, oops, go along my edges here. And that's just in case I need to move it. This may allow me to move it a little bit, or maybe not. We'll find out. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over. And again, I'm using one of my pieces that is my long one. Okay. So I'm just going to go about 1/8 of an inch from the left, and I left a slight hairline from the top and the bottom, okay? And we're going to burnish that in. Oops. Don't forget to wipe away that excess glue. Okay. I accidentally got some glue on my fingers there, guys. I'm not going to worry about this too much because I am actually going to cover this up. So let me not concentrate too much on that. I told you guys. There we go. Okay, keep on burnishing it in. Okay. Now before I bend my paper, I'm going to keep on adding on. So I'm going to use my next larger piece. Let me see, we could use this 3-inch one. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll use our shorter one. Add a little bit of glue again. Any tape that's hanging over, I'm going to push it on to the tape side, okay? Then I'm going to overlap this slightly. And burnish it in. Wipe off any excess glue. Then we can move on to our final piece. And I'm making sure I have any crazy pieces out of my way so they don't get stuck on here. The only thing I can give you advice on when you're placing your papers on, you want to make sure that the ends or edges don't end up anywhere near the spine, okay? Because that will cause weakness of the spine and you don't want that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go over this edge real quick so I can see a little bit hanging over. Okay. Sorry, let me get my glue on here before I forget. Okay. I'm going to line this up straight again. This time I'm going to go the same thing, 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Over here, I'm going to make sure this is all straight. And go ahead and place it down. Okay. And burnish it in. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to move this back over a little bit and cover up my glue. And I'm going to start back over here where I have my spines, okay? And I want to start bending. Okay. So I kind of start bending it up, and then in the meantime I'm taking my bone folder and gently pressing in, and that way the tape actually gets in between that space and adheres. Okay. And anything that starts to bubble up, I'm going to go ahead and press on that. Okay? We turn around and move on to the other side. Here we go. Same thing, we have our other spine. Okay, before I do this, I see a little bit of glue marks. I'm going to go ahead and varnish this in. Not that it really matters because I'm covering this up with paper anyway, but I just want to make sure it's as smooth as possible. Okay. So it's looking really good, guys. So this is what you should have. Okay. Let's go ahead and add our magnets so that we don't forget. Okay. So let me grab those really quick. Okay, so I want to go approximately, let me get out my ruler just so we can check this real quick. Let's go in about an inch. So I'm going to make a couple tick marks. Actually, let me flip this way. Okay, sorry, so it's straight. So I'm going to have one at 1.5. Okay, I'm going to add another magnet at about 4.5, and then at 7. Okay, and I'm going to get my glue. And I like to use washi tape to keep it in place. If I can get it in the right spot here. I'm going to add a little more glue. Okay, and this just helps keeping the magnets from popping off or moving out of place because I'm not using the basic gray magnets. Okay, so another thing we want to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of glue right there on top of my magnets. Okay, and then I'm going to hold this. Okay, and I'm pushing this, even though we know there's a little bit of a gap, I'm pushing it all the way in, and I'm going to press down. Now I know where to put my other magnets, okay? And before I do that, I want to make sure that I'm placing them down the right way. Okay, so they don't fight against each other. So I always test them first. Okay. Oops. Okay. And then again, the same thing. Gonna washi ready, it's ready, okay? And I'm gonna add my glue. Okay, now before we do anything, I wanna make sure this works, okay? So, well, hold on. Let me just put this washi tape down a little bit, okay? Just to make sure it's on there good. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm gonna pry these apart, and then we're gonna get started on part 2, which is working on our first inside page on the left. Okay, so we're going to be working on our first page, which is going to be on the left. Here's the front of your book, and then this is going to be the inside. Okay, so you're going to need a sheet of your, I think it is called, hold on a second, I'm sorry, leaf play. And this one is going to be cut at 7 5/8. I'm sorry, 7 3/8. 7 3/8 by 8 5/8. Okay. So again, 7 3/8 by 8 5/8. Okay, and then I want you to flip it over. Not flip it over. Okay, hold on. So this is upside up. You're going to flip it over, and you're going to make a tick mark at 1 inch at the top and the bottom. And here I can see on my score pile, this is the other inch. Okay. Now we're going to make our belt buckle because we decided to eliminate the pocket. Okay. So for our top piece, that's going to go over here. All right. This is going to be 1.5 inches by 7 5/8, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay, and then we're going to come back over here and we're going to flip this, and we're going to tuck our little piece behind there, so that'll actually be on the front. Yeah, I've got that right. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere it. Okay, just on the inside of the tick mark that I made, so you can still see that tick mark right there. Okay, and I'm going to glue it down. Okay. So that looks good, and I'm going to burnish it in. Okay. Now my bottom piece is going to be the same width, 1.5 inches, but the length is going to be different. This is going to be 6 3/8, and you're going to score it at 1/2 inch. So 1.5 inches by 6 3/8, and score it 1/2 inch. And then we're going to attach it to our other tick mark. Again, just over that. If it makes it easier for you, if you want to hold it into place, okay, and then flip it over, and I'm still holding it in place, and go ahead and glue it on here, just so to make sure that it's even. Okay. All right, now that I burnished that in, I'm going to work on my actual little slider. Okay, or belt buckle, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be 5 5/8, again by 1 1/2. Okay, and then you're going to score it on the 5 5/8 side at a 1/2 inch, 5/8, 2 1/4, 2 3/8, and at 3 7/8. Okay. And then now we can go ahead and actually fold on our score lines. Okay. Oops, I apologize. Oh my goodness. We're going to cut off this piece. I meant to. Okay, scratch that, guys. Okay. Sorry, it's going to be 1 1/2 inches by 3 7/8 inches. Okay. Let me fix that on my. Again, what I say, 3 7/8. Okay. Sorry about that. So again, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch, 5/8, 2 1/4, and 2 3/8. Okay, so I do apologize for that. And so we can go ahead and glue it and add it on there. In the meantime, I'll do this piece last, but I'm going to go ahead and I don't know what had. Oh, there it is. Why didn't y'all tell me where my pin was? No, I'm just kidding. We're going to go ahead and attach this to the page. So before, my inside cover was a different type of setting where I had it at a corner thing, but then I realized that it was kind of fighting with the photos, and I really didn't want any damage at all done to any photo. So I just thought that this would make it a lot easier to not have that large corner pocket. Okay, and I'm just going to line this up more towards the edge. Okay, and then I'm going to quickly start pressing this down and burnishing again. Let me reapply some of this glue here, since I'm not being fast today. Oops. I have finished our slider band, and now I'm going to start on our flat page. So let's go ahead and get started on that. You will need a solid piece of cardstock measuring at 7 7/8 by 8 1/2. you're going to score on the 7 and 7/8 side at 7 and 3/8. So that's just right after the quarter tick mark. Okay. Now we can go ahead and fold on our score line and burnish it in. And if you can take off a split, well, actually, I'm going to leave it like this, okay? I'm not even going to miter my edges, okay? Let me grab my little mat here. Oops. And I'm going to go, oh, before I add the sign, I want to do my file tab. Okay. I'm so sorry. Okay. So I'm going to grab out my We Are Memories Keeper punch board. A lot of us have one. And I'm going to line this up at 5 inches, okay? And punch. And then I'm going to punch on my corner, okay? To make a rounded edge. Now, I'm going to grab my Fiskars trimmer, only because, well, actually, no, I'm not. I lied. I'm going to go ahead and cut off this little edge right there, okay? Oops, let me make sure I have this lined up straight. Okay. Right up here to this edge, and I don't know why this is acting fussy. There we go. And slowly trim until I get to that edge. Perfect. Now I can go ahead and grab my punch board again and round this edge. Actually, I'm going to do a smaller edge right here. I apologize. So let me grab my, this is my little We Are Memory Keepers punch board, and I'm going to use the 4mm rounded edge. Okay. Now, I'm going to make sure that this is burnished in, and I can go ahead and start adding it to my page. So what I'm going to do is where I have the end of this orange line from the pumpkin paper, I'm going to go ahead and line it up directly to that. Okay. So let me just kind of center it. So I should have about a 1/16 of an inch on both sides, as you can see that little orange mark. Let me go ahead and glue this on here. There we go. Let me wipe off any excess glue before it dries up on my paper, and then I can go ahead and burnish that in. Now you can either cover this up with a strip of paper. Let me see if this paper is long enough for me to do that. No, it's not. So I'll have to wait until later till I have another long piece. So for our next part, we're going to go ahead and I will wait. Oops, let me get rid of that glue. I'm going to wait, but I am going to start on this page right here. Later on, we will add in our plastic pages, okay? So let's go ahead and start on page 2, all right? For part 8, we're going to go ahead, for page 2, we're going to start on our flap, and that is going to be 7 1/8 inches by 9 inches. And on the 9-inch side, you're going to score at 8 5/8. Okay, so let me go ahead and score that. Then I'm going to go ahead and fold on my score line and burnish that in. And I'm going to put that to the side. But before I do that, I am going to go ahead and do my corners. And this is completely optional. I like mine a little bit rounded. Again, I'm using that 4mm. Then for my pocket, that's going to be at the bottom of the page, you're going to have this at 4.5 inches by 8.5. On the 8.5 inch side, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch and 8 inches. We're going to turn it back to the 4.5 inch side, and you're going to score it at a 1/2 inch. Now, if you want to add a little divot in the center there, let me get that measurement for you real quick. I don't know why I forgot already, but I did. This is a quick little trick I like to do to figure out my centers. Okay, I fold in my little hinges, and then I make a little indentation, and that is going to be at 3 3/4. So let me grab my We Are Memory Keepers punch again, and I'm going to line this up in that center, which is 3 3/4, and punch. Okay, that's completely up to you. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and miter our little corners here on our pocket page. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold it on the score line. Okay. Now this is going to be a little bit different. This is kind of how I do things, okay? You don't have to do it this way, or you can. What I'm going to do is right now I'm just going to adhere this to the bottom edge where you see that little line when we added the paper on top. I'm just going to go ahead and line this up there. And it should be a slight hair in between the page right here. Or shall I say the score lines where the hinges are. Okay. If it is going into this little space right here, then you do not want to adhere it. Okay. So now, as you can see, I just have that little portion glued down. And then once I add my pattern cardstock, I will go ahead and place this whole thing down. Now I'm going to flip it upside down. Okay, and I'm going to add my top page. I'm just going to center this in here, and again I'm going to put it right up against that little edge right there, leaving a tiny hair about 1/16 of an inch from the edge of the book, and that looks about right. It's about 1/8 and 1/8. Okay. Now I'm not mitering this hinge right here because actually this is going to be underneath my paper, so I'm okay with that. Okay. And again, I'm just going to center this and then burnish it in. Okay. Wipe off any excess tape, glue. Okay. So this should not be going over the edge if you lined it up properly, okay? At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add a magnet. I don't want to put my magnet directly on the edge because then when I'm trying to put my paper down, it will kind of lift up. So I try to keep it a little bit further in. but that option is up to you. Okay. Now, at this time, I'm going to use a washer down on this end, but I'm going to do that later because I need to find where my washer is. So we're going to go ahead and start on page 3, and I will be right back. This is going to be page 3. For page 3, we're going to do a waterfall on this page, but what we need to do first is if you're going to decide to use magnets, you will need to get your magnets prepared. For me, I'm not using magnets. Let me show you my folio real quick, what I did. Again, just to explain a little bit, I use this little raccoon, and he's actually my stopper. I just popped him up on some foam tape, and I thought that would work pretty well. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to grab this is called pumpkin patch, and I cut it to 7½ by 8 3/8. I'm sorry, this should be 7 3/8. It is. I apologize. 7 3/8 by 8 5/8. Let me show you that. Yep. Yep, 8 5/8. Okay. What I want you to do is get your trimmer, and we're going to take off just a hair, just a 1/16 of an inch. Okay. Because I don't want this to have any issues going into the crack of our hinge. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up real quick. And I just do the very edge so that I don't have any white showing. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this on here. Okay. But what I want you to do is I want you to go very close over to the right side, just by the edge. You leave a little hair of your white paper showing. And we're going to glue this on here. Oops. Again, realign this right here. So I should have a little white edge showing all the way around my piece of cardstock, okay? Burnish it in. Now we can start on our waterfall. You're going to need, I used 2 8½ by 11 pieces of paper, and the measurement is going to be 4½ by 7¼ okay? And so you should have 4 of those, and then I'm going to score it at a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do that on each one of these. So score it at a 1/2 inch on the 7¼ inch side. I'll do that to all 4. And if you want to round your corners, you're going to want to do that after you do your scoring. And I'm going to do that. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. Now, for these, I'm not going to miter my corners on the hinge because I want to be able to make sure that they are lining up straight. Okay. Grab my mat, and I'm going to burnish each one of these in. So hold on the score line and burnish. All right, so those should be ready to go. So I'm going to grab out my folio, and let me just double check something on my other one. I want to see how far I went down. I believe it was a 1/4 inch from the top. Yes, it's a 1/4 inch from the edge of my pattern cardstock. Okay, so I'm actually going to grab a piece of chalk. I'm going to turn this upside down so that I can see it better. This is what I love my graph rulers for, is that I can measure out a 1/4 inch, and also that my line will be straight. And I'm also going to go a 1/4 inch from this edge in, so right about there. Do that same thing. I'm going to make a small little, actually I'm not going to see that. I'm going to have to use pencil. I can't see it. Okay, and I love using these pencils because I can just erase my line once I'm done, or I can just directly tape on top of that. You can use tape to put these down, but what I like to do, actually, I'm going to keep this upside down. It just helps me when I'm working at the top, okay? And then I'll change direction. Oh, one thing I did forget to do. I apologize. I forgot to make my little mark. So I knew where to start. I'm going to measure my little 1/4 inch so I know. I'm going to grab my art glitter glue. And I love using this because, especially when I'm doing my hinges, I can quickly move them if I have to. Okay. Oops, hold on. Let me move this back a little bit. So I can actually make sure that's lined up straight, and it is. And then I'm just going to continue on and keep layering them. This is the best way for me to tell. And I always like to go over a slight hair right on top of the next one as I'm going down. And I always check to make sure. Before I press it down, I check to make sure they line up. Okay, and then I press it down. I probably need to add a little bit more glue under there because I didn't work fast enough. I'm just going to double check this one first before I commit. I don't think that's going to work. Let me just go ahead and use the glue. I got to have it somewhat stay in place. Not sure why it's... I need to move it down a little bit. It is up a little further than I want it to be. And I don't know why. Okay, let me add a little more glue, guys. Okay, and burnish it in. All right, I'm going to do the last one off screen since I'm going so slow. At this point, we're going to work on our plastic pages. And I want you to forgive me, but ignore this little strip here that I put. That was a boo-boo, and I'm actually going to cover that up. So what we're going to need here is 2 strips of paper that are 8.5 by 1 inch. Okay, so 2 at 8.5 by 1 inch. And you're going to score at 3/8 an inch on the 1 inch side. Okay, so you should have 2 of those. And this is how we're going to do it. You're going to fold on your score line. Okay. All right. And I know this seems like an odd measurement, but you want this to fit in your book, and this is what I came up with. So literally your plastic pages are going to go in between here. So your plastic page is 8.5 inches long. And if you can see, I know you can barely tell on here, but unfortunately your hinge actually goes over the 1/2 inch score line. So I went ahead and wanted to give it 5/8 inch. So you actually have a 5/8 inch hinge here. Okay, so you're also going to need your score tape at this point. All right, and just remember, on your left and right side, your shorter end, your 3/8 inch end is going to be on your left and your right. And your 5/8 inches are going to meet in the middle, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of bend this over, okay? Well, maybe I should start with this one. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and put some score tape on here. You don't have to do this for all the pages, just this right here to get it initially in place, okay? And then once you get everything in place, you're actually going to have your little clips. I don't know why I can't think of the word right now, but I just had a brain fart. Your brads. That's the word. Your brads. Boy, oh my goodness. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that on there as well. Okay. So with this one, this is going to be on my right side of my hinge. And I'm going to, well, actually, we could do it like this. We don't even need to press it down, okay? Just so we can get an idea here. I'm going to line this up along here so that I don't make any boo-boos. And I've already burnished this in, so we're good. Okay. And then I want you to take where this little knots are right here. You'll see the little stitches. You want to keep your stitches lined up right along there, okay? And that is what I'm going to do. So just take your time, don't rush, okay? And then burnish it in, okay? Then we're going to do the same thing for your other one, okay? Just want to make sure. And which one did I use? The 4. I do want to keep these in the organization that I want. So I'm going to do, this is the 4, the 2. We'll do the 4 and then the 1. So I'm going to go ahead and line this one up the opposite way. So let me turn this. That's okay. There we go. Okay, so this should be right. Alrighty. So now it's going to look something like, if I did this right. Okay, so we missed a part of this because part of it, well, the video actually ended up being really horrible. I'm not sure why. I'm actually recording this live on Facebook in a different group so that I can go ahead and download these much quicker and get them edited much faster. And also our writer Tammy Volland can see these live while they're going. So anyway, basically all I did was add the top on here, and I did add my brads on. So I created my holes and then added my brads in, and this will go right here. So right after your belly band here. I don't know why this is wrong. Hold up. There we go. Okay, that's better. That was driving me crazy. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to center this. I'm not going to put mine down just yet because I want to go ahead and add some pattern paper. But right now I don't have any sheets left that are the same size as what I need. So basically this is going to be a 1/2 inch, and then this one is going to be about a 1/4 inch, I would say. Yeah. By, let me say, 8.5, 8 and 3/8. Sorry, 8 and 3/8. So I'm going to just put this to the side for now, and then we're going to go ahead and start on our angle pocket page. And then we'll be done. All you have to do is decorate. So this is going to be awesome. Okay, so now we're going to work on our ankle pocket. You're going to need a sheet of cardstock that is 8 1/8 inches by 4 inches. On the 4-inch side, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch. On the 8 1/8 inch side, you're going to score at a 1/2 inch and then 7 5/8. Okay? I want you to grab your ruler and a pencil, and you're going to make a couple tick marks. So from your score line, I want you to measure, and I did that wrong. Am I crazy? Okay, from your score line, from 1 inch, you're going to make a tick mark. Let me get a little closer here. I don't know, it all of a sudden got shady out, so I guess it's probably going to rain. I'm going to make a little tick mark there. And then from my score line at the bottom here, I'm going to make another little tick mark. I'm going to get out my cutter. And I'm going to line up these little tick marks. Okay. And it's easiest for me to see with the Fiskars. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut. All right. And then I'm going to erase my little tick marks. I'm going to grab my folio, which is right here. And I am going to miter my corners. And let me go ahead and burnish. Hold on the score lines and burnish them in. Okay. Now again, I'm going to do the same thing that I did last time. I'm going to center this, okay? I'm going to leave about a probably about almost a 1/16 of an inch off the bottom here. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's a slight hair right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue it on there. I'm going to wipe off any excess glue. And then I'm going to leave these open because I have not papered this yet. And I want to go ahead and do that before I glue it down, okay? And then that is it. I mean, that's the end. All you have to do is paper your album now at this point. Oops, there is one thing I'm going to do. I apologize. What I am going to do is I'm going to move one of these magnets. This little magnet down here, I am going to take this off. And I'm going to put it on top of my pocket. I apologize for that. Okay. In order to figure out where that is. Here, I know what to do. Move that out of my way. Add a little bit of glue here. And I'm going to let it close itself, okay? What are we doing here? Oh, I see why, because that's in my way. Okay. Well, this is an approximate. So let me just